Wonderful. Hello, Talofa. Welcome to the OUM community. Welcome to the Meet the Ambassadors session. A special hello to Angela and Sophie and Bihalu and Chipu and Dana and Erica and Bokam and Hawa. Hi, Les and Miriam and Matia and Melissa and Nana and Ramsha. Hi, Regina and Talofa and Kiora to Scott and Sneha and Sophie and Summer. Hello to Swati and Taryn, and hi to Caroline and Beck and Shay Bunmi and Dada. Thanks so much for being here at our Meet the Student Ambassador sessions. We're going to talk a little bit about what student ambassadors are and give everyone a chance to get to know you better. So I'm really appreciative and happy that you were able to join us at our session. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Associate Professor Nicolette McGuire, and I am OUM's Associate Dean for Student Engagement. Also a special welcome to those of you who are attending this session today, who are new students and part of our 2501 cohort starting in January. Welcome to each and every one of you. So for our format this evening for me, maybe this morning or this afternoon, for those of you joining us, I'm going to be asking our student ambassadors a series of questions so that you can get to know them a little bit better and a little bit more about their journeys as medical students at OUM. If you have a question for our student ambassadors, please go ahead and type that in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of the Zoom session today, and we'll take some of those questions live. Anything that we don't get to, we'll make sure we give to our admissions counselors and get you an answer post haste. So Shayfumi, why don't we start with you? Would you like to introduce yourself? Let us know where you're from, and will you share your first memory of wanting to become a doctor?
Hi, my name's Shay Fumi. I'm based in Perth, WA. I'm a pharmacist already, but I'm studying at OUM. I'm in my clinical years at the moment. First, I guess my dad is a GP. He started in Nigeria, but then we went to Zimbabwe. And my first kind of memories was how he was very close with the community, even in Zimbabwe, in the rural areas. I was really appreciated how people respect him and looked up to him as well. And when we came to Australia, we moved to Collie, which is now the regional town. And again, it was the same kind of atmosphere, same kind of community-based kind of like learning and that we had there as well, despite being in different regions of the world. So I just really liked, the community kind of aspect of being a GP and like the leadership aspect as well. So I looked up to that. Initially, I wanted to actually do law, but I guess my mom and dad kind of convinced me and showed me, like medicine is also a really good career pathway to take as well, and like the benefits of having like community and having the continuation of care. With that as well. So I really appreciated that and kind of veered off the law aspect and moved to more medicine. Yeah.
Well, we're really happy that you didn't choose law, and it sounds like your dad and mom are really proud of you too. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Dada, would you like to introduce yourself? Let us know where you're from and what your first memory is of wanting to become a doctor.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dr. McGuire. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dada. I'm actually based in the United States here in Dallas, Texas. Right now, I currently practice as a family nurse practitioner, so I've been in the medical field for some time. As far as my first memory, I knew I wanted to go into the healthcare field. Originally, I went as a registered nurse and I wanted to work with pediatrics. And during that time, I became ill myself and I had to, I encountered many different health professionals. And for me, I was always wanting to kind of know, what was going on with myself. So I'm always looking things up. I remember even as a young child, I would read the dictionary, like medical dictionary. I know that's weird, but so I didn't have anybody in my family's in medicine. I'm the first person in my family that's actually in medicine. And so everyone thought I was weird. I wanted to read it. So I was always interested in the sciences. And when I became a nurse, I knew I wanted to continue. I ended up going and get my nurse practitioner degree. And then I said, okay, I still want to know more. And so now here I am for a second time at OUM. I was here years ago, and that's when I became ill and I entered back here to OUM. And so my journey's been a little bit different, a little bit challenging, but I'm still here pushing through, and I'm so happy that I'm making this transition. So that's I can remember. It's just my experience as a patient and then also working as a nurse is what made me venture into becoming a physician. That's it. Thank you.
We're so happy that you're feeling better and that you're back. And I think this this path of being a nurse practitioner and just wanting to know more is kind of a theme that we do see with students that are in that profession. So I look forward to hearing a little bit more about that in our session today. So thanks for sharing. Beck, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I am Beck. I'm in my preclinical, almost finished though, period. Do you want me to answer the same question, Dr. M?
Please.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it's really hard. Okay, so I actually didn't finish high school. So I had all of these really exciting plans early on as a kid to do all these cool things. And then I didn't finish high school, and it kind of, I think I'd accepted that, you know, maybe, well, you know, that I wasn't smart enough and that it just wasn't an option. And then I did some bridging courses through TAFE, which was grueling. I think I did year 9, 10, 11, and 12, and then a bridging course, and then an undergraduate. And then I finished my undergraduate and I did really well. And I think at that moment, and only then, did it occur to me that maybe I wasn't stupid, that I had some options. And so that's kind of led me to where I am now.
And knowing you through your medical student journey, I can also confirm that you are not stupid and that you and the other student ambassadors in this room are amongst the smartest people that I've ever met. So I'm really glad to hear that you were able to find that level of confidence and that you've joined our community. So thanks for sharing that, Beck. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself and same set of questions, please?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Dr. M. Yeah, lovely to hear your stories. It's inspiring, and my story's not. I don't think it's as inspiring. I love the background stories of rural and nursing, and feeling like, you know, you've had to motivate yourself through educational systems, Beck. That's brilliant. I actually always wanted to be a vet. Growing up, I grew up on a farm in England, but I didn't go to vet school. I did science and worked in research as a research assistant, and then I got into the nursing field. And like daughter, I think I just wanted more clinical knowledge. I wanted to expand what I knew so that I could be of more use in rural health. So I'm based in country Victoria in Australia at the moment, where I still work as a nurse. I'm in final year OUM. I've just today finished my last core rotation day, so the end is getting close. I've just got some electives to do. Yeah, but it's been a great journey, and OUM's been very supportive, and yeah, glad to be here today to share stories and welcome everybody on board.
Congrats, Caroline. It's like all the blur now that you're at the end. Seems like you've just started and now you're nearly at the end. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you.
And I just want everyone to be in rural and remote practice because we just have such a need globally. for that kind of practice. Of course, I support and want to see everyone go into the areas that make the most sense and are the goals for them. But I just I always like want to do a little cheer whenever anyone mentions that they want to do rural and remote practice. So I want to ask you, Sheifunmi, about like, because you were a pharmacist before and you moved to Australia and you were in this more rural community, how did you know that it was like the right time for you to start medical school? Because you could have stayed in the career that you had before. Like, was there a driving event? How did you know it was the right time for you to start medical school?
I actually only worked as a pharmacist like full time for 6 months. So I did my internship during COVID, so 2020. And it was baptism by fire, basically. I was working like 12 and a half hours a day. Because we had to split into 2 teams. I was like covering like 8:30 to 9, like every day back to back. And I still had to go home and study for my internship exam. But I do remember one day my preceptor, she was like, half like kind of joking about it. She was like, can you imagine doing this for the rest of your life? And I was like, oh my gosh, no. So then I went home and like reflected on that. And I was like, this is not really what I want to be doing. I got very jaded really fast in pharmacy. Obviously, reality is not the same as like theory. So just, getting into the nitty-gritty of it, I was like, I don't really like just dispensing. And especially in the community pharmacy, you can get really trapped in just becoming a dispensing robot, and not actually using your clinical knowledge. And I was like, I didn't go to uni for 4 years just to become like, dispensing robot, basically. I
Yeah.
didn't like the politics of, I was like, well, maybe I can do hospital, but I didn't like the politics of hospital. Again, the reality is different from like the theory, and you can again get very jaded really fast in the hospital, especially in like Perth. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I was like, I do like the part of pharmacy I like is, continuation of care, looking after patients, actually like counseling patients. We have to find like either a good pharmacy that will allow you to do that, or become a doctor basically, and continually like advance in your clinical knowledge as well, providing the best kind of care. So that's why I moved.
Um, it's so interesting to think that it was this timing where you were spending so many hours a day. Like you said, you were doing 12 hours a day for 6 months. And it's not like you had less work to do
No,
once you started medical school, but the
yeah,
work was different. So it's like,
yeah,
so I want to tell you now that you're as far in as you are, like you have now gone through, double or triple or quadruple that amount of time
yeah.
doing long hours. So what's your thoughts about that now? Like
I think
you made
like
the right decision.
no, I think one of my philosophies in life is when you stop learning, you die, basically. So I'm always like curious about, having more knowledge in every aspect. So not just medical, but like in every aspect of my life as well. But I found like if I just stick with pharmacy, it can easily just like not have like knowledge in like, the field that I'm working in, and you can be okay, but you're not like living, basically. So for me, I love studying. I'm a bit of a nerd like that. I love, just like knowing about different aspects of life, not just medical, but like in philosophy, gym, nutrition, every aspect of my life. So for me, like the thirst for knowledge is continually driving me. So that's why medicine's a very good field if we have that curiosity in life. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like lifelong learning.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. Beck, can you tell us a little bit more about, why did you choose OUM? Because you had kind of a non-traditional pathway, like obviously an incredibly smart person, but it took a little bit of a different route than others, or even what you might have expected. So why did you end up choosing OUM for your medical student journey?
And nothing I ever do in life is straightforward or simple. I'm starting to accept that now. It's just the norm. So I am a solo parent to a very young child who has additional needs. And when I started with OUM, he hadn't even started school yet. So I was like oblivious to what was ahead of me as a parent. So I needed something that sat right with me as a parent, and but allowed me to move forward with my life and continue to grow too. And I kept sort of hitting this wall of like, well, I have to I have to lose out for him to move forward or vice versa. And I didn't want that. So OUM has allowed me to literally do some of my degree from a closet some days, like a storage room, as Dr. M has witnessed. And it's good. It gives me the flexibility to be present with him and hands-on, and also meet my needs as a person, as a mother, as a human that's not just a mother as well. And I don't think I could have gotten that anywhere else.
So, you're not someone who chooses the easiest path. Well, how did you know it was the right time for you? Because it
Oh, I
seems
didn't.
it was difficult, right? It was the time that you started was difficult. So how did you know it was the right time for you to start?
I had a really, really quite a big health scare. And I remember thinking when this happened, it was the year before I started to prep for OUM. I just remember thinking it was a very dramatic moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, if you strip away all the excuses of like, I'm not smart, I don't have enough, like all of that, if there's nothing left, then how do you feel? And I was like, wow, it's just so clear. Like, this is what I want to do. And the rest is just excuses that I've made so that I have reason to avoid it, which is so funny because like it was so clear what I wanted. And everything else just felt so silly. So, but as far as the timing, like, I don't think you can know. I think you can do your best to set yourself up. But you really, like, I don't know that you can know. I don't think you can really.
I think there is like a narrative for a lot of OUM students, and I hear this from prospective students as well. Like they really want this and they've wanted it for a long time, and they just keep telling themselves, oh, like maybe like I shouldn't do it because this, or I should wait because of that, and like maybe it's not the right thing for me to do. I should just keep doing what I'm doing. And then it's like 2 or 3 years, and then finally like, okay, well, I shouldn't have waited. Like I've been trying to like convince myself out of this for a really long time, and I just never was able to. So that's like a story that I hear a lot. Like I'm here because I could not get it out of my head. Like it just wouldn't allow me to move forward anymore. Because this was just what I was meant to do. So I like hearing that from you. I don't know, Caroline, is your story similar to that?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, the timing was my children were grown up. So that was good timing for me. So I think it was clear, but I did have a false start when I have 4 children. And after I had 2 children, I actually got into medical school in Paris. So this is quite a while back. And I kind of canned the project at the time because I just thought my children were too young. So timing is everything. And I think I'm happy with my choice because now I have 4 children and I'm still going to medical school. And a wise lady once told me you can have you can always study later, but you can't have children later. So that's been a big theme for me, and I've made it work for me and my children. So similar to Beck, yeah, just meeting my needs, but also taking care of children.
It's funny because everybody's story is a little bit different. Like we have students who are having babies like during school. So both partners having babies and them themselves are having babies, and like people want the exam schedules like for the next year so that they can plan the births of the babies like in between the 2 weeks that they have. So it totally depends on, how people situate things for their life, and when things are going to be right for you will depend on you personally. Donna, I want to hear a little bit from you because you made the decision to come to OUM, and you made the decision to come back to OUM after you had time off for reasons that were not within your control. But I'd like to hear more about why did you originally choose OUM, and why did you make the decision to come back? And maybe we do have a couple of questions about you being a nurse practitioner,
Okay.
in particular. So If you talk a little bit about that, and then I want to ask you some questions about being a nurse practitioner and transitioning into medicine as well.
Yeah, sure. So kind of going back, and for me, I don't want to date myself and get my, I put my age out there, but it was years ago, just based off my son's age. I really centered my life before it was just me. There was no one else in my life. And when I entered OUM the first time, like I said, about 10 years ago, I was told I couldn't have any kids. And then when I got into medical school, I was pregnant. So, and that's when I became ill as well. And so with the combination of all those things going on, I had to discontinue. And I thought at that time I was just, that was it. I was hanging it up. I was done with it. And so for me, I just decided to go back to get my doctor of nursing practice degree. So I actually ended up going that direction. And then during that time also, I ended up opening my own private practice. And so I thought, this is it. I'm set. I'm going to go ahead and continue with being a nurse practitioner. I can still see patients. I can still do what I need to do, and I know I've always wanted to do. But even still doing that for a few years, it got to a point to where I don't know if anyone knows how the healthcare system here in the United States is. There's a lot of things that hinder nurse practitioners to be able to fully, do what they need to do. And I had a lot of limitations. That was one reason I kept kind of going, well, maybe I should go back. Maybe I shouldn't. I was kind of on the fence about it. But then what really changed is actually during the height of the pandemic is kind of when I started. I got an invitation from OUM, and it was on an old email address asking if I wanted to apply for medical school. I was like, wait a minute, I was there. I remember this. I don't think I ever talked to Dr. McGuire about that. And I said, well, let me just see. This might be a good time. My son is at an age to where he's not necessarily self-sufficient, but he's not in the baby stage. I can maybe still run my practice, things are kind of self-running itself, and then I can still, take classes on the side. And I said, if I get in, then okay, I'll start. And so here I am. I didn't expect to get in. I didn't think they were going to accept me again. But originally, I applied for OUM because I like the idea of being able to take classes online, because I'm more of a kind of a self-sufficient learner. That's just my learning style. I prefer to kind of be able to attend class, but then also, go back and listen to the lectures, just because the way my attention span is, and just be able to still have that flexibility to have my own family life. And so the second time around, it was the same reason. I said, okay, things have evolved with OUM. I saw the curriculum actually had changed from the first time that I originally started. It was a lot of improvements. So I was like, okay, this is it. I can do this. And so that's what made me come back, because it made more sense for me at that time. I felt like my family was good, my health was good, everything was kind of falling into place. And it has been. I'm not saying it doesn't come with challenges, but it's a much smoother transition than it was the first time. So the same reason I started OUM years ago is the same reason I came back. It's always been an open, and all the instructors have always been caring, administration have always been caring. I always felt like I had someone there to support me, whether it was then and even now. And that was the main reason. And I like also having that kind of a smaller boutique type style as opposed to a large university. That's just not me. I like to be able to interact, more with some of my classmates and the administration. And I'm able to get that from OUM. So that was kind of my reason for returning. Does that answer your question there?
I like the small size too. Like I like getting
Mhm.
to know each student that comes in, and being able to connect with everyone is important to me too. So I'm glad that resonates for you. Um,
Yes.
and I just wanted to mention for those of you who are joining us either here in person or whether you're joining us via recording, about this the way that our curriculum is structured, where during the pre-clinicals in the first couple of years, your classes are online, so that you're able to stay in place. You don't have to come out to Samoa for your preclinicals. And if you want to know a little bit more about our curriculum in the preclinicals, you can ask Beck some questions about that in our Q&A. She's part of our current program. And then in your clinical rotations, you are there on site at various hospital and clinic facilities. Dada, we have a couple of questions about being a nurse practitioner from our audience today. Would you mind taking some of those if I read some out?
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Okay, so Summer wants to know, says, hello, I'm an advanced nurse practitioner from the United States. Hi, Summer. Dada, did you find your clinical hospital on your own, or will the school assign it for you? How long did it take you to finish the program? Well, you don't where you're on a little bit of a different trajectory.
Right.
Where will you practice medicine after graduation?
Well, Summer, I appreciate the question. Thank you and welcome. So a lot of those questions are still left open to decide where I'm at. I don't think I've said where I was in the program right now. I'm actually in the transition phase to where I'm studying for the first step that we have our boards here in the United States. And then I'm going to be entering into my clinical clerkship. It will be sometime next year when I pass the boards. I do about 18 months of that, and then I should be able to start hopefully applying for residency after the second board. So to answer your question, from my understanding, I'm discussing this as far as where my clinicals are going to be. Depends on what location you're at. From my understanding, I don't know if this is going to change for your particular cohort group. If it's a clinical in my particular state, then I can attend that clinical here. If not, the school will assign that clinical for me, which they've already kind of preliminary already told me where I may possibly go. And then I would just have to apply for that. And as far as like the program, I'm actually going into my third year now, so I'm not quite finished yet. But trajectory, I hopefully in about a year and a half, almost to 2 years. So it might be a total of 5 years for me. And that's just the way that my program was set up. I think yours might be a little bit different. And as far as like the counties, I don't know yet where I'll be practicing. I'm hoping somewhere near close to home. So only time will tell as far as that.
Thanks, Dada. One more. Les wants to know, I'm a physician assistant and I'm here with another potential OUM student who is a nurse practitioner. Hi, Les and friend. We are both located in the US and have master's degrees. In general, do PAs and NPs need to take any prerequisite coursework?
So when I entered OUM, I did not, all my courses, most of them from my nurse practitioner course in the undergrad sciences, they did carry over. But as far as like when I came into the program, we had a introduction to medicine course, and I feel like that prepared me to kind of, spark some of those neurons to help me remember some of the things that I learned years ago. And it was a challenge to begin with, but it is doable. So I'm not sure what your background looks like, your curriculum looks like before, if that matches up with OUM, but I'm sure that you'll have advisors that'll go over that. But as far as being able to transition, I feel like it was a pretty smooth transition. I didn't have anything that was in the way to not where I couldn't start immediately. So it did transition over very well. I can't really speak for your program and where you're set up in your background as far as like your educational background. But for me as an advanced nurse practitioner here in the US, I would assume that yes, you should be able to transition well.
Thanks, Dada.
Mhm.
Caroline, I know you have a nursing background as well, and we have a question from Jackson about how difficult is it to manage a career as a working nurse and be able to do the first 2 years of preclinical studies?
Yes, I just actually typed a little answer in there. That's all right. It's fairly easy, I would say, in my experience. I was able to divide my time between work and study because of nursing rosters are generally flexible, certainly in Australia. So it's more of a financial juggle. So you've got to work out how much you need to work in order to pay your way in your life and allow your study. But I find it certainly in the preclinicals, that it worked fairly well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Caroline. So Beck, are you in gastrointestinal system at the moment, which is one of our preclinical courses. So can we shadow you for a day? Walk us through a day in your life as a student in preclinicals in the gastrointestinal system.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you want me to answer this. Okay. On a day where there is not a crisis, so like 3 out of 5 days a week, I wake up pretty early, get my son, so from about 6 a.m. until 8:30, I'm parenting. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a house after school drop off, but like so between those hours, I'm like putting my life back together after the school run. And then we do between the hours of then until 2 is study time. If things go well, they don't always. And like I said, sometimes I will take my computer, and I've honestly spent days sitting at the school or, you know, wherever else, which is fine. Like I can do that. There's no reason why I can't. Yeah, and then at about 2 o'clock, I then have to wind into parent mode, which is like it does take me about 20 minutes or so to be like, okay, that's there. And now you're over here and you're present. I go get my son, and then from 2:30 until 7 o'clock at night, I'm a parent again. And then between 7 and 10, I should be studying and like eating and and doing all those things, like what do they say, eating and sleeping and stuff. I try and fit that in.
Leisure, a little bit of leisure.
Yeah.
Downtime.
I stop study half an hour before I want to sleep to try and again like get my brain to let go of whatever I'm doing. And then on the weekends, because I'm a solo parent, again, like I'm kind of just with my son. So and I'm not an amazing student. Like I do average, but I'm doing a lot right outside of that. So I imagine if you weren't me, you could like try a bit harder and put a bit more time into it. But I don't have the time, and I'm making it work with like what I've got, and you know, I'm still here. So it's possible. It's a real juggle. You've just got to be really strict with like your time. Yeah, you can't spend an hour procrastinating before you start. Like you've got to treat it almost like a job. So you've got lunch break from, you know, dot to dot type thing, but that's a good day for me.
Well, I would say a couple of things for that, which is you were doing amazing and not diminish your performance in any way. And also that everybody has their own like academic standard, and this is something that we talk about in academic planning when students come in, is that you set your own academic standards. We set the standards that you need to pass each class, which is getting at least a 60%, but everybody has a personal academic standard for how they would like to perform. And that may be related to the grade that you get in that course. That may be related to the feeling that you get when you learn really difficult concepts, that maybe the gastrointestinal system is something that you've always feared, and like you've made it through the gastrointestinal system, and that was your like academic goal, and that's fine. So we like to work with each student individually, and academic goals change over time. And because we're a smaller university, we like to work with our students individually and allow them to shift and go as things within their environment change, as does happen with you on occasion, Beck. So Shayfunmi, I think you're in your emergency medicine rotation at the moment, so maybe you're having some days of crisis as well. Can we shadow you? Would you walk us through a day in your life as a clinical medical student?
Sure. So I wake up at 4 on most days, just because I like to have that moment to do my like morning routine. So that's obviously like journaling and praying, meditation. Then I go to the gym. I do track as well, and football. So I've got to try to balance everything, all that stuff as well. So go to the gym, come back, have my breakfast, get ready, then go to the handover meeting. So that's around 8 a.m. that I've got to be there for. I get there like just at 8 every single day. And then from like 8 to 12, I'm, doing things, shadowing one of the doctors. I've gotten really good at cannulations now, so doing a lot of cannulations. And then I try to like kind of excuse myself around 12:30 to go eat. And then either they let me go early, or I stay there till about like, 2 to 4. Then I come back. It depends on the day, but then either I'll go to the track and do track, and that helps me just like unwind. Like it's my kind of like time to just, take a moment, or I'll go for a walk and then try to study for a bit. So that's either doing like the lectures or reviewing my Anki card and stuff. And then I will just try and wind again. So I do like my morning, evening stretches and chill, eat dinner, and go to sleep. So I try to get to bed around like 10. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned your morning routine and the things that are like important to you every day to do in the morning, because it's so important to just continue to be a person and
Yeah.
continue to be like you, specifically the person that you and to, maybe it just takes a little bit more to maintain that part of yourself. Like waking up at 4, I was like, oh, that's a little early. But
Yeah,
like
it's
the things you have to do, right?
yeah, the first like week and a bit of doing that was hard, but then now like my body just wakes me up at that time, so you get used to it.
What about you, Caroline? Do you feel like you're more seasoned now that you're like at the very end? What would you have any advice for Beck and Shayfumi or prospective students about like managing their time during the day as a medical student?
Well, I think what everyone's already mentioned with the self-care and um, making sure that you make time for things you love and do the things that keep you well. And I don't get up at 4 a.m., but if you get up at 4 a.m. and it really helps you, that's very impressive, by the way. Do what you need to do for you, and know what that is, because you may discover things through this OUM journey that you didn't realize you needed, because the stress, the heat is on at medical school, and so you're kind of forced to take care of yourself. So it helps you grow through that. And like I think Beck's already mentioned, time management. Anyone that's a nurse knows about time management's the top thing they ask you in any interview. As long as you can manage your time, you can be a nurse. So you've got to nurse yourself through this. And I really loved Beck's comment about treating OUM as a job. Maybe not everyone finds that helpful, but the idea that this is a commitment that's important. And I've gradually turned my nursing work into the second place behind OUM as I, got more confident at medical school, and nursing was just my kind of back wheel. And so, yeah, just the idea of commitment, time management, keep yourself well, know who your supports are, and yeah, know when to reach out and know when to take a break, go on holiday, say, I've had enough. And I love Daughter's story about taking a big break and then, coming all the way back and, never giving up. And it's so you're in a good place with OUM for that kind of approach.
I like what you said about you have to nurse yourself. If you're a nurse, or if you're not a nurse, you have to nurse yourself. Like you have to be aware of limitations and aware of your own health. Like it's really important to maintain that. And OUM does have a lot of services like for support. So we have our student ambassadors who are here that support our prospective students, like those of you joining us. They're our new students, like those of you here as well. And as students are starting on in the program, to provide them some advice and support. We have peer supporters, we have student success advisors, but all of those kind of services do require that you nurse yourself, that you be aware of kind of where you're at and that you reach out and get your needs met. So I like that, nurse yourself. Dada, we have another question in the Q&A, and this one's from Anonymous, and they said, hello, Dada, are you still running your practice? Because I am currently FNP and PMH NP. Just wondering how I will be able to handle everything. I'm Nigerian and currently living in the Dallas, Texas area. Now, Dada, I know you don't know Anonymous, so we can't say for certain how they will be able to manage everything, but maybe like you want to answer that for yourself. Like, how do you handle everything? How do you handle going to medical school and all of your other responsibilities?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the question. So, really, it's balance. It's everything. Just kind of mimic that everything that everyone else just said. Keeping everything balanced and keeping everything into perspective. Because for me, I mean, it's just been one, I guess, long journey. And as far as my practice right now, I don't know if whoever's in Dallas, they probably know that you have to have a collaborative physician here. So my collaborative physician takes over most of my patients now. But when I first started OUM, I was able to still practice full time. I had my brick and mortar, still seeing patients. And then over the course of the first year or so, I got heavier to the didactics, and I've moved most of my patients over to them. But I still work though. I still work, more than at full time the first couple of years. Now where I'm at is the transition phase. I've had to cut back on my hours. So it's all about balance. I carry a lot of hats. I wear a lot of hats. I'm still, a business owner, still nurse practitioner. You're still a nurse. I'm still a mom. I'm still a wife. I still have responsibilities at home. And even that, I'm practically a single mom because my husband, he's travels overseas all the time. So I'm pretty much by myself. So it is manageable. And I'm just for me, I've always kind of been a busy person, never really stopped. But now when I started school, I'm like, oh, wait, I have to take a break. I have to take a step back. Like Carolina was saying, is that you really have to know your limitations, when to take a break, and also, when to really go for it. And I believe Beck mentioned about it being a job because it really is. You're investing in it. You're investing in yourself. You're investing in your future patients, all those things. So making sure that you give equal amount of time to all the areas in your life, it is definitely doable. I don't know what your background is, but I know being a nurse practitioner can be demanding. But I think, all the hats that I've had to wear in the process of being a medical student, it's definitely possible. It's all about balance. And I tell myself that every day. And I don't know, Dr. McGuire may knows myself and my advisor. I'm pretty hard on myself. I try to, I want everything to be, you know, oh, I didn't do well in this exam or this exam. You have to kind of remember the reason why you're getting back into this, why you're in it. Know the big picture, but also take things into just kind of compartmentalize things like, okay, now I'm doing this. Because if you try to take it all at once, it's going to be overwhelming. And so just, being able to structure yourself, organize yourself, giving yourself a break and just kind of working your way into it. I think that's the best because you're not going to come in already kind of knowing what to do and what to expect. It's going to keep coming at you. And even now in my process, I'm studying for my boards. It's still coming at me. And I'm like, okay, now I have to pivot. I have to transition to, start a different way of doing things. So you just kind of take it stages at a time. I guess if I have to say that, balance and taking it stages at a time. So it is doable. It is doable.
If there's one thing I would say is that you have a very high standard for yourself, but you do continuously meet your standard, and that you're very detail oriented and that you catch all of those important details. So I think that really works well for you. A lot of students and prospective students will kind of want to know, like, what does it take to be successful in medical school? So what are your secrets for success in medical school, Dada?
I think kind of some of the same things I just mentioned, just the balance in things, being able to, for me, when I take every subject at hand. Okay, I have to take it in different steps because like I said, if I look at the whole, curriculum and I'm like, okay, this is all up against me. I take it pretty much, okay, now I have this month to do this and I break it down to this week. Now I break it down to this day. Now this hour. Okay, now I have 30 minutes to do this. That's kind of how it works, and that's kind of how I feel like I've been successful is keeping that balance. And just keeping everything into perspective, and just trying to take care of myself as well. Because if I'm not well, then it all can just kind of fall apart. So yeah, that's how I feel like I'm successful, the balance there.
Thanks, Dada. Caroline, now that you're almost at the end, what would you say? Like, what are your secrets for success and for resiliency that it takes to get to the end of medical school?
Yeah, pace yourself. Similar, just echoing daughter's advice, which is excellent advice. Pace yourself, don't look at it all at once. Just do what's in front of you and take time to have something else in your life that's exciting, that's got nothing to do with medicine, like a new puppy or a special holiday, or you're designing some educational package at work which you love that's got nothing to do with OUM, so that when OUM feels like it's dragging you a bit, you've got some other area of joy in your life, and then it refreshes you and you go back. So it's very much about balance, I think.
Thanks, Caroline. Shayfunmi, we have a question that was sent in to us, which says, I've heard that OUM uses virtual classrooms. How do you meet and interact with other students?
Um, well, I was fortunate to I got two good friends that I met, well, actually three now, from OUM. So actually going to the end of year meetings and going to the conference as well. I met up with Norman Chu and Jason so happened to be in Perth as well. So now we're connected and we're kind of in the same clinical years as well. And now we've got a group chat on Messenger. So actually, taking the step forward to be open to community, because we're not meant to do life alone. We're not meant to do medicine alone. We need to have that community base to help each other and like lift each other up. So just taking that step to actually try to meet people, network with people. We have the everyone's available on the student area in on the CIS program. So if you actually go and see, oh, this person's like in my area, take that step, like that confident step to reach out to them. I'm sure everyone is reciprocal to your invite. So yeah, just doing that.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to take the step. The
Yeah,
community is there, and the not being in the same area isn't necessarily a barrier if you can just take the step forward. So I like that.
exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Beck? Have you found ways to connect with, since you're still in preclinicals, have you found ways to connect with other students in your year, other years?
Yeah, it's so crazy because I think I was really anxious about this to begin with, but I feel like the friends you make as you go through med school are so unique because, okay, so I was having a conversation with someone the other day and he was very upset. He was full having a tantrum. And I said to him, it's so funny how we do this. We start off and we have a look at it and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And you get all wound up and you have this big tantrum about how it's impossible. And then you're just like, oh, okay. And then you just do it. And you might do it crying or still complaining and having your tantrum, but eventually you reach the point where you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll start. And I don't think unless you're in med school, you can grasp how overwhelming it can be sometimes. So there's definitely a connection where sometimes words aren't even needed. Send an emoji and there's just an immediate understanding of like, oh, yeah. So you will connect purely because you're all going through the same thing. I have met up several times with people from other states and it's felt like we've known each other forever. But we have like dinners together and like play games together with just like video. One of my best friends lives in another state and she's never met my son in person, but she knows him so well that when, she's just part of the house furniture sometimes now. So yeah, you just need to use your imagination a little bit, but I don't think it's overly hard to connect because we're going through something very unique. And you do need people who understand it. So yeah, definitely reach out.
She's a good one. And yeah, just be creative with how you connect with others, and the community is there for you. It's funny the bonds that you can have with people when you're doing impossible things every single day and they're doing the same impossible things. So that's great. Caroline, what would you say? Have you had the opportunity to connect with other students, and what's that been like for you?
Yes, definitely. When I joined in 2020, we set up a little WhatsApp chat group, and that's been a mainstay over the years. We've met up according to geography in Australia, which has been helpful, and we've attended some of the OUM organized meeting events that's been in our state. And so we've had encouragement for OUM and opportunities to meet for a kind of social gathering OUM type thing. And now there are these student lunches, which are lovely. I went to one this week in Melbourne, and so I think Carmel's touring the
Yep.
world, actually, from what she was
Did
saying.
you meet Susie at this lunch as well?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so that was a great success, very encouraging, and I was able to meet with local people in Victoria who I've known for a few years now. So, yeah, you find a way, and now with online platforms and all this software and chat groups, there's no excuse not to stay in touch. So it's definitely possible to have your buddies with you along the way, even if they're not in the same room.
I saw you also answered Jackson's question about how much time is spent in Samoa, and I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about your experience in your rotation in Samoa. So, just for information, for those of you who don't know, because we are a medical school situated in Samoa, we do have a requirement for rotation of 4 weeks in Samoa, but students can stay longer in Samoa for rotations if they wish. You can go to this beautiful location and meet all the wonderful people within Samoa and at the TTM hospital. But I'll let Caroline tell you a little bit more about her experience.
Yes, Samoa, not Samoa. I didn't know that before, how to pronounce it. Yes, they corrected me, but that's fine. Samoa is a beautiful destination, a friendly place to be just a general tourist or guest or clinical visitor. So I spent 4 weeks at TTM, which is the name of the hospital in Apia, the capital. I did pediatrics, and it was fantastic. It was everything I hoped, because of course it was a lower resource environment clinically, and I was able to, in fact, the lab closed for a week, so or longer, and so we were in a clinical setting where the clinical thinking was really mobilized, because everything had just to be kind of first-hand bedside diagnoses with no labs, just going on symptoms and history. So from a student point of view, I thought that was quite exciting. They were all quite annoyed that the lab was closed, but got the opportunity to really mingle with the team and the students there. And there were lots of local students as well as other OUM students. So the reports over the few years I've been with OUM from people coming back is everybody loves it. And there's a variety of rotations. I think surgery is very popular. I enjoyed pediatrics. Mental health is now very good. I think they've developed that area. And
Yes.
it's just fun. Yeah.
Trauma, the mental health rotation is excellent. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so you've got that to look forward to, definitely. It's not a chore, it's not a financial drain, which you might think it is. It's going to really add something to your clinical learning and your cultural. There's a lot of cultural competency that you can pick up as well by being there, which are skills that are much needed in the healthcare workplace, and we're still lagging, I think, in teaching that and using that in our practice. So yes, definitely a big thumbs up from me for Samoa.
Caroline, we have a few attendees today who are students starting in our 2501 class in January. I actually had a session with many of them right before this one. So I said, come to the student ambassador session and they'll give you some information and advice as well. So Caroline, do you have any advice for our new students who are starting in the January cohort?
Oh, like general big advice is just start. You're in. like Beck was saying, you know, don't waste time not doing it. Just pat yourself on the back that you've chosen something that is for you. I was very inspired by a similar session that we're doing now. Back in 2020, a kind of meet the student session. And one of the students said, I have time for this now. And I've never forgotten that voice. And very often I'll hand that one on to everyone here. Is like, you have time for this. You've chosen this. And it's exciting. So, you know, off you go.
Thanks, Caroline. Beck, do you have any advice for our next cohort of students?
I do.
Please share.
I really struggled in the intro. I think that a really common thing that happens when you go from an undergrad into med school is you try and bring across how you've learnt in the past to how you're going to learn now. I don't know that that's necessarily always the best strategy. And I think what I did was I held on to it. I was like, no, this works. This is how I do things. And so I'm going to continue to do it like this because this is how I've always done it. Oh my gosh, did I make life so much harder than it had to be for myself. I think fast forward that process. Like if you're finding that something's not working or you're not completing the workload or, you know, you're like me and you're crying every day, please ask for help because it's not meant to feel like that. That's not normal. There's so much help out there. Reach out to one of us, inclusion. Oh my gosh, the list is endless, but please don't do what I did. And just spend so much time miserable and not knowing how to do it. Why do I learn the hard way I don't know why I do this to myself, but don't do what I did. Go and ask for help, like straight off the bat. If you're miserable and you're not doing well, go and ask for help. That's the advice.
Thanks, Beck. Donna, do you have any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. So, gosh, I think when I first came, something that resonated with me was, I think someone told me, or you guys said it multiple times, it's like drinking water from a water hose. And I didn't know what that meant when I first came in, but I learned really quickly. And so what that meant was that there's going to be a lot of information that you're going to be able to have the opportunity to learn. And like for me, I was, like I said, I was hard on myself. Don't do that. You know, give yourself some grace. And then one of the first things I would say is really learn what your learning style is. Spend a lot of time in the beginning trying to understand what works for you, even though you might pivot from that later as you continue to progress in the program. But for me, I had to kind of relearn on how to learn because I've gone through several different programs that were different. Some were online as well. And then also working already as a nurse practitioner, I was like, okay, I know this. And I realized, wait a minute, I don't know really anything. You start learning how much you really don't know. And so coming in, that's for my nurse practitioners, come in with an open mind, utilize the things that you do know, but also be ready to learn and be ready for the amount of information you're coming in. My key thing, like is going back to making sure one, that balance, and then also knowing your learning style, really knowing what works for you. And if you don't know, like Beck was saying, definitely get help to understand what that is, because it's going to be different for everybody. So I'm trying to figure out what that learning style is best for you. That would be my advice.
Thanks, Donna. Shayfunmi, you have any advice for our new students?
Everyone covered a lot of the good points, but thing that helped me as well is just staying disciplined, especially everyone has things they're doing outside of medical school, but to balance everything out, you need to be disciplined and setting goals up. So even before I started with OUM, I researched heavily, like how to study, like the best way to study to retain information and be efficient. So yeah, just actually planning and having discipline as well to follow through with the plan that you've set for yourself is very important. And that will carry on, when you do internship, when you sit for boards, when you just continue on with your medical career as well, setting the discipline from day one or even before day one, basically, that is really like carries forth, honestly.
I think that's so important. Being disciplined, having a plan, managing time, knowing when things aren't working, just keep moving forward. We're nearing the end of our session. I know all of you who have joined us here in person will join me in thanking Caroline, Beck, Dada, and Shea Funmi for sharing their time with us. If you'd like to connect with our student ambassadors offline, get in touch with your admissions counselor and they will connect you directly. A big thank you and hello to Angela and Bihelu and Chipo and Consuela and Dana and Daryl, Davina and Erica, Fokum, Hamed, Hawa and Jackson, Jason and Jijo and Les and Miriam and Matia, Melissa, Mercy, Mesh, Nadira, Nana Patrice, Regina, Sane, Scott, hi Shanda, Sneha, Sophie, Swati, Taryn, and Violet. We're so happy that you've joined us today. Congrats and welcome to our 2501 cohort who have joined us today, either in person or via recording. If you're not part of our 2501 January cohort, we hope you'll join us for our next webinar, which is an admissions info session happening on January 16th in North America, January 17th in Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, and American Samoa. I hope everyone has a joyous and happy holiday season. This is our last webinar of this year. We've really enjoyed getting to know you over this season, and I look forward to welcoming you or seeing you next year. Thanks again, Caroline and Beck and Shea Foodme and Dada. Really appreciate your time and honest and straightforward opinions today. Thanks so much for joining us as our student ambassadors. Thanks everyone, bye for now.
Thanks. Good luck, everyone.